My name is Rafael, you're watching Rock and Roll Garage, and today I'm gonna show you who are the 4 bass players that Geddy Lee, the legendary Rush frontman, said are some of his heroes. But first, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment. Well, let's start. In an interview with You Discover Music a few years ago, in 2019 to be more specific, Geddy Lee talked about many of his favorite bass players, and he mentioned 4 of them as his heroes. And let's start. The first one is the incredible Jefferson Airplane bassist Jack Cassidy. And the interesting thing is that it's a band you maybe didn't expect that Geddy was a huge fan, but he actually was. And in an interview with Music Radar in 2022, he said this: "Listen to his playing from the early days or the live album blasts its pointed little head. You hear something really twangy and aggressive for what essentially was a trippy Californian band. He had this heavy tone that pushed the band along. Jefferson Airplane went through a million configurations in their history, but Jack made those early versions of this band stand out for me." So this is a small part of what he said about Jack Cassidy. And besides the song that he mentioned, he also said in other interviews that he liked a lot a song called 3.5 of a Mile in 10 Seconds as one of his favorites. And about Jack Cassidy, besides being part of all the classic Jefferson Airplane albums, he also formed the band later, which was named Hot Tuna, right? If I'm not mistaken. Hot Tuna, that's right. I did want to say the wrong name. And besides that, if you don't know, when a little while after Jefferson Airplane came to an end, a spin-off band was created, which was Jefferson Starship. And and Cassidy went to another way and created Hot Tuna at the time, but later on, Jefferson Starship became a famous band. They had a lot of hits, and he was part of a few recorded albums with Jefferson Starship, 2 to be more specific. And the second one that Geddy Lee mentioned was John Paul Jones, certainly one of the biggest heroes Geddy has. And the interesting thing is that after Rush released their self-titled debut album in '74, if I'm not mistaken, they were called the Canadian Led Zeppelin because of the sound of the band, which was very inspired in Led Zeppelin, Cream, and many other bands from that era, but also for Geddy Lee's vocals, who on their first album could be, a little bit compared with Robert Plant. So he is a big fan of the band. He had the chance to see Led Zeppelin playing live in the early years, right on the late 60s, and he said it was a life-changing moment for him because they were playing so loud that were pieces of the ceiling just breaking and falling down in the venue. And he said that Jimmy Page seemed to floated on stage. He was floating on stage because they were so good live. And he even talking a little bit more about John Paul Jones' influence on Geddy. He said that he thinks that John is the unsung hero of Led Zeppelin, and he had the chance to even meet him a little bit better when he wrote the book, Big Beautiful Book of Bass, that Geddy wrote about the bass guitar, and he interviewed a lot of famous bassists, including John Paul Jones. So he had the chance to meet him as well. Let's move on to the next one, which is Jack Bruce. As I mentioned it before, Cream, the supergroup formed by Jack Bruce, Eric Clapton, Ginger Baker, was a huge influence to Geddy Lee, and he praised the band many times. And the interesting thing is that he also had the chance to see them live in the late 60s there in Canada. And the curious thing is that his friends didn't know the band. They were not interested So he decided for the first time in his life, and we already made a video telling the story. If you want to see, go to the description to watch. That he decided to go on his own. He went to Cream's concert by himself, and he said it was a life-changing moment as well. It simply changed his mind. It was like turning a key, and it was really a turning point. And he said, you know, this is what I want to do. This is the kind of thing I want to do. After he watched Jack Bruce playing the bass like he was playing and singing. And he, in an interview with BBC a few years ago, he was asked to choose also his rock god. Who was his rock god? And he chose Jack Bruce as well. And some of Geddy's favorite Cream songs that he already praised over the years are White Room and the versions that Cream did for Spoonful and Crossroads. And another interesting thing is that Rush recorded Crossroads, which is a Robert Johnson song, but they covered the Cream version. It's quite similar to what Cream did in the 60s with that song. And this version was released on their covers album Feedback, released in 2004. And we reached the final one, which is someone you would expect, because it's a progressive rock bassist, is the late legendary Yes bassist Chris Squire. And Geddy even said in this interview, we mentioned it with You Discover Music, that in terms of progressive rock, the greatest progressive rock bassist of all time, in his opinion, was Chris Squire. And Yes is another group that he had the opportunity to see live there in Canada when he was young, and he was just an aspiring musician. Rush didn't have a record deal or anything, and he had the chance to see them live, and he had a full circle moment in 2017 when Yes was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And the ones who inducted Yes were Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson, the Rush guitarist. And since Squire had already sadly passed away, Yes invited Geddy Lee to play the bass with them. So he played with Yes when they were being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So these are the 4 bassists that Geddy Lee said are his heroes. And if you want to read more, there's so much more about it that you can go to description, visit the article we wrote about this, and please visit rockandrollgarage.com, like the video, leave a comment, and let's talk about it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.